course of the False Claims Act,
Okay.
Senator.
Last question, if confirmed, would you commit to continuing DOJ's defense of the constitutionality of it? And will you assure the entire staff and funding levels to properly support and prosecute false claim cases?
Senator, the False Claims Act is so important, and especially by what you said with whistleblowers as well, and the protection and the money it brings back to our country. Yes, sir.
Thank you for your answers, Senator Durbin.
Thank you, Senator Grassley. Ms. Bondi, if you're successful in your nomination, this Democrat would like to give you 3 words of advice. Answer Grassley's letters. You'll never hear the end of it if you don't. At issue, I believe, in this nomination hearing is not your competence nor your experience. At issue is your ability to say no. More than any other cabinet official, the Attorney General has to be prepared to put the Constitution first and even tell the President of the United States you're wrong. The political danger and personal costs of such a decision are well documented.
All right, let's skip ahead a little bit,
Yeah, I've already
guys. We want to get into the juicy parts, right? We've done the introduction. She's went back and forth with the chairman. Let's get into some of the juiciness, though. Because she did get grilled, I promise.
You can say no to your older brother. I'm sure he would. That's a good.
Counsel, Office of Special Counsel.
Ben Trump's lawyer prepares you for many things. So, yeah, you have a longstanding relationship with the president. He trusts you. That's a good thing. That's probably why President Kennedy picked his brother, Bobby Kennedy. I guess you can say no to your older brother. I'm sure he would. But this idea there's something bad is ridiculous. Who do you pick? You pick people you know. You pick people you trust, people that you're qualified. I'm glad he picked you. He knows you, he trusts you, and you're highly
Some might call that nepotism.
qualified. So the idea that there's something wrong with that is just absolutely ridiculous. So let's talk about the job you're about to have here. Do you support making certain drug cartels in Mexico foreign terrorist organization?
Senator, I personally went to Mexico. I personally dealt with these cartels when I was a state prosecutor, and they are a grave and violent threat
You
to our
consider
country. Yes, Senator.
Advising the president. Good, good. Now, when it comes to Crossfire Hurricane, are those days over if you're Attorney General?
Absolutely.
Okay. Lake and Riley, are you familiar with that case?
Sadly, I am, Senator Graham.
Do you know why the man who killed her was released from custody? He was paroled due to detention capacity at the Central Processing Center in El Paso, Texas. Now, that's not your call. You'll be DOJ. But do you agree with me that the statute regarding parole doesn't allow parole to be based on we don't have detention beds? There's nothing in that statute would authorize parole based on lack of capacity. Are you familiar with that statute?
Yes, sir, and that's frightening.
Yeah, well, it's frightening. Are you going to fix it?
I'm going to do everything in my power to fix it
Well,
if
are you-
confirmed as Attorney
You're going to
General.
advise President Trump we need more beds. Tom Homan's the guy that's going to do this, but would you as Attorney General say we need more bed space so Lake and Riley never happens again?
Senator, my job, if confirmed as Attorney General, will be to keep
And for those of you who are wondering who Mr. Graham is, he's U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham, I'm sorry, out of, I believe, South Carolina. So that's who's grilling her right now, but she's got a few more opponents ahead of him or behind him who are about to step up on the girl too.
America safe.
Do you think we
And
need
that
more
includes-
detention space?
And that includes having enough space for violent criminals, for people that should not be in this country
Yeah.
who have committed violent crimes.
To
And
the
Lake and
public?
Lake and Riley is one of many.
Yeah, but 41,000 beds in this country to detain people. We got like millions of people here illegally. We let this dude go because we didn't have any place to put him. I hope those days are over. And if Tom, you're listening out there, I hope you'll create enough detention space to make sure we don't find this dilemma ever again. Do you think we're at war? And if so, who with?
Oh, Senator, we're at war on so many fronts.
Are we at war with ISIS?
And guys, like the video. I see almost 200 of y'all in here, man. We just getting started on tonight's stream, but do your boy a favor, double tap that screen or you can hit the 3 buttons in the upper right hand corner, man. And it's actually, guys, we have a perfect segue headed here for a word from our sponsor. Yes, guys, we have a word from our sponsor. So, with all this talk of drones, spyware, and online monitoring, it is important as ever in this digital world to have control over your sensitive passwords and information. Guys, it's 2025. Hackers and scammers are only getting smarter. If you don't want to leave yourself vulnerable or compromised online, this year we partnered with Aura, who offers services such as password management, financial fraud protection, and identity theft protection to help monitor and safekeep your most personal data. There's more services offered as well. I've signed up for the service myself. It's simple, easy to use, and it's free to try for 2 weeks. Enough time for Aura to do its magic. So do yourself a favor, use our link, aura.com/SKM for Second Key Media, and sign up for Aura, guys. Do yourself a favor headed into 2025. All right, back to the show.
Of course, we're at war with ISIS.
They're at war with us. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely,
Do
Senator.
you think since our withdrawal from Afghanistan, threats to our homeland have gone up from ISIS?
Yes.
Okay, March 7th, 2024, General Corella. I assess ISIS-K retains the capability and will to attack the U.S. and Western interests abroad in as little as 6 months with little or no warning. That's March of 2024. General McKenzie, ISIS-K has a strong desire to attack the United States after it began to grow in Afghanistan following U.S. exit in August 2021. He also stated the threat to ISIS-K from ISIS-K is growing. Major General Quantock, the U.S. remains target number 1 for ISIS-K. Do you agree with that?
Senator, I don't have my security clearance, but from everything I've read and heard, ISIS is one of the greatest threats.
Okay, well, when you get your security clearance, you're going to find out these people are coming after us and they want to kill us. So I would like to have a strategy to deal with the ISIS threat that's beyond just the law enforcement model. Does that make sense to you that we should use every tool in the toolbox?
Senator, that includes wrapping in our state and local officials too, and better cooperation throughout our country and our world.
I totally agree. Do you support reauthorizing FISA in 2025?
Senator, I believe 702 is up in 2026.
Okay, I'm
I
sorry,
believe it's
26.
2026, and we will closely be looking at that. FISA is a very
Do you
important
agree
tool.
that the 702 provides important intel gathering capability to protect our nation?
Extremely important.
Okay. So, Pam, you're about to step into a job that's one of the most important jobs in any democracy. Let's go back to pardons. If I'm a lawyer for somebody in jail, would you promise to listen to the application and read it before you made a decision?
Yes.
Okay. No matter who you are. Good. That's the way it works. People want to bargain with you up here. Will you do this? Will you do that? All I ask you to do is call it as you see it, hire good, competent people, and give the president the best legal advice you can, run the Department of Justice in a manner that other people would want to join it one day. Growing up, I had a fondness for the FBI. I watched the show, I think it's every Sunday, wanted to be an FBI agent. Right now, the FBI needs an image overhaul.
Shout out.
So you have a real task ahead of you in 2 areas: to restore trust to many Americans who have lost trust in the Department of Justice, and to
That sounds like a undertaking for not only Pam Bondi, but Kash Patel as well, who we know is a staunch Trump supporter. He's been actually criticized for his affiliation to MAGA, and they've called him somewhat of a conspiracy theorist kook. So, but he does have good plans that he wants to implement as far as draining the swamp or attacking the deep state once he gets in that office of the FBI director. But hopefully he can co-opt that effort with Pam Bondi here.
to make sure that this country is safe from drug cartels that are killing 3,000 Americans every 2 weeks for money, to go after these people and to protect our homeland that's under siege. I think you're the perfect pick at one of the most dangerous times in American history, and I look forward to supporting you.
Thank you, Senator.
Damn,
Senator Whitehouse.
it was fire.
Thank you, Chairman. Welcome, Ms. Bondi.
Thank you, Senator. And thank you for meeting with me. I greatly appreciate that.
It was a pleasure. Ms. Bondi, you were a courtroom prosecutor for a great many years. As a courtroom prosecutor, did you ever have an enemies list?
No, Senator.
And you went on to be Florida's Attorney General. As Florida's Attorney General, did you ever have an enemies list?
No, Senator.
As Florida's Attorney General, you were responsible for hiring.
An enemy list. Oh shit! Hold on, my bad, guys. An enemy list is crazy. I'm assuming the implication being like her political enemies that she was going to go after with her power and her influence. That's actually crazy. Like a hit list for your political enemies.
Into the Florida Department
And imagine having the power to get them knocked.
of Attorney General, correct?
Senator, the Attorney General's office in Florida is the third largest in the state, approximately 1,400 employees and approximately 400 lawyers. Only California and Texas are our bigger offices.
And you were
So,
responsible
yes.
for hiring into that office while you were Attorney General?
Yes.
Would you
Sen-
have hired someone into the Florida Attorney General's office who you knew had an enemies list?
Senator, to cut to the chase, you're clearly talking about Kash Patel. I don't believe he has an enemies list. He made a quote on TV, which I have not heard. I saw your sign, or Senator Durbin's sign, about Kash, but I know that Kash Patel has had 60 jury trials as a public defender, as a prosecutor. He has great experience in the Intel Department,
Hey.
Department of Defense. I have known Kash, and I believe that Kash is the right person at this time for this job. You'll have the ability to
Oh,
question
this-
Mr. Patel.
And I'm
When-
questioning you
when
right
you
now
do.
about whether you will enforce an enemies list that he announced publicly on television.
Oh, Senator, I'm sorry. There will never be an enemies list within the Department of Justice.
Thank you.
Pam Bondi's relatively young. I mean, I guess for a politician, she's 60 on the dot. So, I mean, she's not definitely ain't no spring chicken, but she's no 70-plus-year-old Biden or Trump for that matter.
The FBI's, what is the FBI's role
Oh,
in
yeah,
national
she's
security and counterterrorism, and
I
how
know.
important is that role?
You know, Senator, I believe now more than ever, counterterrorism is so important
man,
and
Bill's coming
vital
back.
in our country. We are facing such incredible threats here and abroad. If I'm sure many of you saw former FBI Director Wray's interview on 60 Minutes, he talked about the threats that, frankly, again, I don't have my security clearance,
Yeah,
but the
but
threats
given that-
facing us, Senator, from China right now that are so great. With
Given
the
that-
sleeper cells within our country.
Given that importance, is it responsible to call for shutting down the FBI's counterterrorism and national security work? And will you, as Attorney General, impede or shut down the FBI's counterterrorism and national security work? Two
Senator,
questions.
I believe that national security is vital right now for our country on so many fronts. I could continue to
And
discuss
the
many
FBI's
others.
role in that,
And the FBI plays a vital role in counterterrorism
which you
throughout
will
our
or will
world.
not shut down?
I will look at each agency. I have no intention of shutting anything down right now, Senator. I am not in that office yet. And if confirmed, I will look at each individual agency and how it should be managed. But counterterrorism right now in our world is vital.
You have said that Department of Justice prosecutors will be prosecuted in the Trump administration. What Department of Justice prosecutors will be prosecuted and why?
I said that on TV. I said prosecutors will be prosecuted, to finish the quote, if bad. Investigators will be investigated. You know, we all take an oath, Senator, to uphold the law. None of us are above the law. Let me give you a really good example of a bad lawyer within the Justice Department, a guy named Klein Smith, who altered a FISA warrant one of the most important things we can do in this country. So will everyone be held to an equal, fair system of justice if I am the next Attorney General? Absolutely. And no one is above the law.
Under what circumstances will you prosecute journalists for what they write?
Damn.
I believe in the freedom of speech.
That's a setup ass question too. Like, oh, so under what pretense are you going to prosecute these journalists who you may or may not disagree with? Like, that is a setup ass question. Like, what are you expecting her to answer? Like, I believe in free speech, which I'm sure she's about to finish saying, but I believe in free speech and I'm going to uphold that to the fullest extent of the law. And I'm going to stand by every American citizen as it is their constitutional right to broadcast and to practice said free speech. Like, come on, bro. You got to try
Only
harder than that.
anyone commits a crime. It's pretty basic, Senator, with anything, with any victim. And this goes back to my entire career for 18 years as a prosecutor and then 8 years as Florida's Attorney General. You find the facts of the case, you apply the law in good faith, and you treat everyone fairly.
And it would not be appropriate for a prosecutor to start with a name and look for a crime. It's a prosecutor's job to start with a crime and look for a name, correct?
Senator, I think that is the whole problem with the weaponization that we have seen the last 4 years and what's been happening to Donald Trump. They targeted Donald Trump. They went after him. I actually started.
He hit that man with the Uno reverse. That's not what he was expecting. He tried to hit her with the burner, but she said, okay, I like that. But I raise you this, good sir. That's exactly what they've been doing to our man Trump. Yeah, weaponizing the court system against political enemies. Like, that's actually the problem. Like, let me in there. I'll solve that. You trying to accuse me of doing it. I'm the one who's going to be the solution for the issue.
Starting back in 2016, they targeted his campaign. They have launched countless investigations against him. That will not be the case if I am Attorney General. I will not politicize that office. I will not target people simply because of their political affiliation. Justice will be administered even-handedly throughout this country. Senator, we've got to bring this country back together. We've got to move forward or we're going to lose our country.
Yeah, I think the concern is that
Hey, shout out.
weaponization of the Justice Department may well occur under your tenure. And we want to make sure that that's not the case, that you remain independent, that you remain able to and willing to tell the president no when that's necessary to protect the Constitution and the integrity of the department. So that's where I'm asking these questions. We talked in the meeting about the contacts policy that has prevailed really since Senator Hatch sat in that chair and demanded it of the Clinton Justice Department through all the administration since then, with the exception of a brief period under Attorney General Gonzalez, which he corrected and which did not end well for him. There has been a contacts policy that limits contacts between the White House and the Department of Justice to a very few senior officials on each side. In your role as Attorney General, if you are confirmed, will you maintain, defend, and enforce that longstanding contacts policy?
Senator, yes, I will meet with White House counsel and I will meet with the appropriate officials and follow the contacts policy.
My time has expired. Thank you, Ms. Bondi.
Senator Cornyn.
All right. Answer those questions very professionally. I like how she kind of covered the basis on that, because he really did try to set her up with a couple of those questions. Those were rather honey-trapped questions. But she did her thing on that one. That was round one of several. So let's get into it, guys. Let's keep going. Like the video if you haven't already. Double tap that screen, or you get the 3 buttons in the upper right-hand corner. We appreciate the support, as well as super chat into the stream to show your support. Thoughts, questions, comments, jokes, poll suggestions, video suggestions as well, guys, can be shared. Super chat in at least $5 or more. We'll give you a shout out for supporting the channel as well as fulfill your request. Let's keep it going.
Ms. Bondi, your testimony is music to my ears.
Thank you.
One of the things that I have been most concerned about over certainly the last 4 years and extending back during President Trump's administration is the weaponization and politicalization of the Department of Justice, which together with the FBI is one of the most important institutions in this country. If people don't trust that their elected officials will faithfully enforce the law or administer equal justice under the law, they've lost faith in America. And that disturbs me greatly. And I know it does you too, based on what you said. So I'm delighted to hear you say what you have said, but I want to talk about some specific topics. Time is short. First, the border. I believe President Biden and Vice President Harris had presided over one of the biggest humanitarian and public safety disasters in American history. Senator Cruz and I represent a state with 1,200 miles of common border with America. But as you pointed out with fentanyl, what happens at the border doesn't stay at the border. Fentanyl poisoning is the most common cause of death of young people between the age of 18 and 45. We know where it comes from. The precursors come from China. They go to the cartels, they mix them up, make them look like innocuous pills. And young people take them and die. It's just that simple and that tragic. So there's just so much that we could talk about with regard to the border, but you know, I know people voted for President Trump in large part because of his promise to restore security at the border.
Yeah.
Will you do everything?
President Tom Homan, quote unquote, border czar, that whole initiative of returning everybody back, stopping the influx of people at the southern border, going after the drug cartels in Mexico and these other countries. Man, yeah, that's literally, I would say, I would argue with more than half of Trump's voting base was people that were feeling some type of way about our southern border.
Within your power as Attorney General to enforce the laws on the book, including the president's executive orders, which I anticipate he will be signing on January the 20th when he is sworn in, and help do everything you can and the Department of Justice can is to restore security to our southern border.
Yes, Senator, absolutely.
One example is, of course, if you come here to from anywhere in the country and you show up at the border under the Biden and Harris administration policies, you'll simply be released into the interior of the country, either to await a trial date, which may never occur due to the enormous backlog, or you will simply be paroled. And I know parole has a special connotation in the criminal law, but in this context, as you know, it's designed to be administered on a case-by-case basis. Yet President Biden and Vice President Harris had granted parole, that is, released people into the United States on a categorical basis, or anybody who shows up, or because they don't have the detention facilities to keep them. So do you believe Lake and Riley would be alive today?
There are so many victims throughout.
I'm mad that they cut that question off. That is a great question about Lake and Riley, because that is, I would argue, what ultimately led to Lake and Riley's death, which is, of course, a tragic case, is a loose ass southern border. Like, we wouldn't have these people, these certain people, obviously not all of them, but certain people that pose a threat who just happen to be undocumented, who just so happen to come over our southern border. We wouldn't have that issue if we had a more strict southern border, a more policed, a more managed southern border.
Out our country, not only
Which has been ever more egregious, or ever so more egregious, under the last administration. And who have we been serving under, or who has served our country for the last 4 years? Biden. The most crossovers, a record number of high crossovers in the last administration as well. Biden.
only that, we're all familiar with the violent gangs who are coming into our country, walking into our country freely through the open border. The cartels, the gangs, Venezuela, let people out of their prisons. It's been reported. I don't have the security clearance yet to see what's happening, but I know, we all know, there are criminals throughout our country, and it is my commitment to you on both sides of the aisle that I will do everything in my power with the agencies that fall under me if I am confirmed to make America safe again. We have to do that, Senator.
Well, many of us, of course, see classified information on the Intelligence Committee or just generally in our duties as a senator. And so you're not going to feel any better about the blinking lights, the danger that Director Ray has talked about. In my closing moments here, I want to revisit an issue that is of particular importance. 60% of the president's daily brief, which is the intelligence brief that the Director of National Intelligence and the CIA Director delivered to the president, comes from Section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. I've called this the most important law that most people have never heard of. I know you have, and you're familiar with it, but I want to ask you a few questions about that. It's been called the crown jewel of U.S. intelligence. And of course, it cannot be legally used to spy on American citizens. And if it is, it ought to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. I know you would agree with that. But there have been some, as you know, and as you pointed out to Senator Graham, we have a temporary extension of the existing authorization for the use of the intelligence community to target foreign threats to our.
And guys, go ahead and like the video. Appreciate the support. We got over 200 of y'all in here, man. We really still just getting started on tonight's stream. Got a lot of other content to cover. We're going to get through as much as we can on this. This is 6 hours long, so obviously not going to get through the whole thing. We'll bounce around here, but like the video, show some support to the content. You could also hit the 3 buttons in the upper right-hand corner. Appreciate the support. Keep it interactive, keep it engaging. Super chat into the stream. $5 or more will honor any video requests, post suggestions. You could also share thoughts, comments, questions, jokes, whatever, what have you. We'll give you a shout out for supporting the channel. Read what you said aloud or fulfill whatever request you have. Appreciate the support, guys.
National security that expires in 2026. And I'd like you just to confirm here on the record that you will enforce that law and you can support the law as it is written.
Senator, I haven't read the entire 702 in front of you, but I will commit to reading that and doing everything I can to keep America safe again.
Of course you will. So Director Ratliff, who's going to be, I'm going to go to his hearing on for CIA director. Of course, he was confirmed as Director of National Intelligence. Some have argued that in order to query or look at lawfully collected FISA 702 product, that you need to get a warrant requirement in order to show probable cause that a crime, including espionage, perhaps has been committed. But Director Ratliff has written that a warrant requirement may not achieve its intended objectives and could hinder national security efforts. Do you share Director Ratliff's concerns?
I would read his memo and I will speak to you after I read his memo, Senator.
Well, we need to have I hope you and I can continue this conversation after this because I think there's a lot of misinformation with regard to how Section 702 works. I'm happen to be one of the members of the Senate Intelligence Committee. We read that product on a regular basis, and it is not used to spy on American people. I think what's fundamentally missing is a lack of trust in the intelligence community, including the FBI, which I'm hoping you and Mr. Patel can restore. Thank you.
Thank you.
Which I feel like has been overwhelming or highlighted in the past few months with all these terroristic threats and attacks we've had on American soil. A lot of people are kind of looking in at the FBI like, yo, what's going on? Like, yo, you know what I'm saying?
Senator Klobuchar.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. We had a good meeting this week. Thank you for that. And I appreciated your priorities on human trafficking that you mentioned today, that work, as well as fentanyl, and some of your other prosecution experience. We had some similar backgrounds in doing that. And I want to talk about, first of all, the U.S. Attorney's Office in Minnesota, one of the premier offices in the country. This office has been instrumental in combating violent crime, dismantling street gangs, taking fentanyl off our streets, enforcing civil rights laws after George Floyd's murder, ensuring victims of fraud get justice. Do you agree that it should be a priority to support U.S. attorneys, frontline prosecutors, and case agents who work hard every single day on our streets?
Senator, I think that is one of the most important things in our country right now. And there are so many good men and women within the Justice Department throughout our country, as well as all the law enforcement agencies. Yes, they work very hard and they will be supported.
I'm concerned about some of the proposals that could put cuts in the COPS program, burn JAG programs. I know you're familiar with those. Senator Murkowski and I lead the COPS reauthorization bill. Just will you commit to continue to support those programs?
Senator, I will read everything about those programs because that is a top priority of mine. And I would love to meet with you on that and Senator Murkowski to support law enforcement and those programs.
Thank you. Independence from political interference is vital to the legitimacy and success of the Department of Justice. I was honestly troubled by some of the answers to Senator Durbin's questions. We will continue that discussion, I'm sure, on the committee about the election. But I want to focus on the investigation, charging decisions. As a prosecutor, I'm sure you had this experience. I would get calls from people, hey, that's just a kid, give him a break. And I remember one answer I gave was, he's 40 years old, he's not a kid. But that kind of interference is attempted all the time. And one of my concerns here, whether it's a call from a friend, a corporate lobbyist, a White House, it has been very clear that the attorney generals of both parties have established clear policies to ensure the White House doesn't tamper with criminal investigations and prosecutions. At Attorney General Mike McCasey's hearing, he made clear that any attempt by the White House, and these are the words, to interfere with a case is not to be countenanced. Any call to a line assistant or to a United States attorney from a political person relating to a case is to be cut and curtailed.
And we're going to skip around here, guys. As I said, we're not going to be able to get through the whole thing. Obviously, it's 6 hours. But we will make it through as much as we can as possible. Skip around and find the most juicy parts. I'll be honest, I didn't watch the whole thing. There's a few segments in here I want to specifically get to. But let's segment real quick. A little comedic interlude, let's call it. Lefty's losing it, man. Was a long lost segment. We thought they were done. She's back. Rita Panahi, however you want to say it. Sky News Australia. Y'all love it. We love it. Let's get into it.
Losing it, and I think it's high time we checked in on the leader of the free world.
Oh, shit.
Yes, him, POTUS, the man the media told you was cognitively sound and a decent and honest and competent commander-in-chief. You can now add dangerously delusional to President Joe Biden's long list of ailments.
I would have beaten Trump, could have beaten Trump, and I think that Kamala could have beaten Trump, would have beaten Trump.
Say what now?
Wait,
you could have beaten Trump?
What sense does that even make?
No amount of fortified.
You think Kamala could have beaten Trump or would have beaten Trump, but she didn't. Like, overwhelmingly lost the popular electoral. Oh, we seen it. Like, all of us lived through that. That was just the last month almost. Like, we seen it. So what is Biden referencing here? Does he know where he's at? Does he know he's talking right now? Does he know he's on camera? Somebody check on Biden.
Elections could have seen you beat Trump. And as we saw, Kamala didn't come close either. So why is the president saying that now? That's beyond me. Also beyond me is why he'd be uttering a sentence like this. Listen here as he speaks about the California wildfire victims losing their homes before switching to his own happy personal news.
We got a notification yesterday that their home was about to burn down. Today, the parents are maybe still standing, I'm not sure. The good news is I'm a great grandfather as of today.
Their homes are gone, but yay for me. I'm a great grandfather.
All right, that is hilarious. This is actually funny. If you've been following the channel for the past few days, we shared a clip of a woman coming up to Gavin Newsom and being like, "We need you to do something. Like, my kid's school burned down. This is unacceptable. Like, why didn't you pass the levee? Like, why do we not have any water? Why has this situation been going on for as long as it has been?" And he's like, "I'm on the phone with the president right now trying to figure out a solution." So to fast forward to Gavin Newsom and Biden being in the same room, and Biden literally diverting from the topic at hand of the massive fires that have scorched half of greater LA to him being proud of being a great grandfather. That is hilarious. I'm not gonna lie, bro. It's Biden. It just, honestly, that comment right there, that display just sums up his presidency. Endless gaffes, endless memes, and stupidity. Wow. I'm over here doing a Biden. Idiocy, stupidity.
Everyone clap. And if you thought that was bad, listen here as the cognitive decline and compulsive lying combine to see the president claim with a straight face that illegal border crossings came down when he became president. This is next level left
You know he lying.
lunacy.
Look, let's get something in mind about the border. When I became president, the numbers came way down, number one. Number two, we had a circumstance where I pushed very hard for bipartisan agreement to put more people on the border, more Secret Service agents. And guess what? He's on the phone saying,
I'm sure he means border service agents, not Secret Service agents. And what they did do is not necessarily hire more, but they took agents who were serving at our northern border and directed that traffic down to our southern border, since that's where the issue was at. They also raised incentive pay or overtime pay, but as far as hiring more, that's something Trump said he was going to do, actually, if we be specific.
don't do it. Don't do it. Make me look bad.
Did he just claim to have put more Secret
Secret Service is
agents on the
insane.
border? He is cooked, folks. The truth is that the numbers exploded to record highs during his presidency. The record numbers crossed illegally after Trump had overseen a sharp reduction in illegal entries. And let's not forget this statement from Biden after Jimmy Carter's death, where he used the occasion to, you guessed it, attack Donald Trump.
Thank you. President Trump to take from President Carter?
Decency.
I'm gonna lie.
Decency. Everybody deserves a shot. Everybody.
It's a creepy ass smile.
Can you imagine Jimmy Carter walking by someone who needs something and just keep walking?
This from a man who doesn't even acknowledge his own granddaughter, Hunter's love child down in Arkansas.
Oh yeah, that he had with a stripper when he was on his coke or meth or crack binge. Yeah, his illegitimate daughter that the Biden family doesn't even claim. It's actually insane.
Biden's to this day refuse to acknowledge, whose mother had to take legal action just to get some financial support for her. This is a man who wants to lecture us about decency. Okay, but whatever you may say about old Joe, at least he's not Kamala. Here is the Veep and wannabe president giving these words of advice to the victims of Californian wildfires.
And so it's critically important that, to the extent you can find anything that gives you an ability to be patient in this extremely dangerous and unprecedented crisis, that you do.
There you go. Basically amounts to sit down and calm down as authorities fail you again. Now, this time with the inauguration days away.
Wow, that was actually more word salad from Kamala. I knew I didn't miss that, but hearing that again was almost eerie. Like, she just has a certain way of speaking where she says so much, but almost says nothing at the same time.
One must not forget the lengths the leftist media went to cover up President Biden's and Vice President Harris's many deficiencies, though some of them are trying to rewrite history.
One of the things we also do in the year-end correspondence roundtable is dig into what was undercovered or underreported. Jan?
Undercovered, underreported. That would be, to me, Joe Biden's obvious cognitive decline that became undeniable in the televised debate.
At the presidential debate with Trump.
Unquestioned. And, you know, it's starting to emerge now that his advisors kind of managed his limitations. It's been reported in the Wall Street Journal for 4 years. And yet he insisted that he could still run for president. We should have much more forcefully questioned whether he was fit for office for another 4 years, which could have led to a primary for the Democrats. It could have changed the scope of the entire election.
It's starting to emerge now. Please. It was obvious to anyone with eyes and ears that the president could barely function. We reported it here and we were attacked for it over and over again. Let me quote Congressman Byron Donald.
We were gaslit by Democratic delegates of Biden who told us for months, damn near, I would say the whole duration of his presidency, like, nah, he's good. There's no cognitive decline. Y'all should have Trump taking the cognitive test. Trump is the one in cognitive decline. He's doing the word salads. He's stuttering. He's stammering. Y'all gaslit us for months only for it to come out that everything was true. All the rumors lined up to Biden really not being all the way there. It was only until they couldn't hide it anymore in public forum where he pretty much embarrassed himself in the country on debate night. I'll be honest, that was the camel or the straw that broke the camel's back was that on debate night where he literally stuttered, stammered his way through the debate and made a fool of himself. After that, his handlers, his campaign, his team couldn't even ignore it. And they had to stiff arm out the way, Heisman Trophy, as I like to say, and insert Kamala Harris. But yeah, we were gaslit. They gaslit us to hell and back and told us that Biden was good. He was going to run for another term. He himself said that. Like, yeah, I mean, at a certain point, gaslit is letting them off too lightly. We were lied to.
Also had this to say for those in the media who have now decided to discuss Biden's mental condition. They decided to discuss it when it no longer mattered. They blamed it on a stutter. They blamed it on Russian disinfo. They blamed it on cheap fakes. They hit him at every opportunity. They scripted every public event. They denied the Her report findings. They sent him on vacation for 570 days. They brazenly lied to you for years. This could be the biggest presidential cover-up in American history, and the media defended it all until they got exposed at the debate. Don't let the media gaslight you. This story existed for years, and they avoided it on purpose. Here, I couldn't
Shout out Byron Donald
myself. Every single word there.
Bro, flashcard.